video games are very well designed, or the best ones are, and a lot of what is thought to be very good learning techniques are employed in video games. One of which is, it's based on experiential learning. If you do it, you learn it. There's inquiry-based learning. And also, it's very good at increasing a person's self-efficacy and belief in that they can actually tackle this game. And they get confidence about it, and it's very good at that, and that is also beneficial. You set your own goals, so you're not given a goal by some academic to say, "Oh, go off and do that." You set your own goals and try and solve them. It's also, contrary to popular belief, students work together, either online with cheap websites, or they often will play in groups. They'll come around to someone's house and they'll play in groups, or they'll play online together. Also, video games are very good at feedback. They provide instant feedback, and which is for a long time known to be very good for learning. And also, one of the most important reasons for me is this idea: it places them in authentic context, doing authentic type tasks. And for all these reasons, we decided to develop a racing car simulation game, which was called Racing Academy. And the other thing is that students spend a lot of time actually playing these games, and if they could spend the same amount of time studying, then it would be very productive. And they've got a figure here of 6.8 hours. We've actually done a survey of students across 3 universities, and the figure we got was 3.6 hours average a week. And I noticed in this survey that they're only looking at the people who actually play video games, whereas our survey had quite a few people who didn't play video games. So I think if you only looked at the ones who play video games, that would be closer to 6.8 hours. In fact, one student played 48 hours in a week. The idea is, if you could engender that sort of enthusiasm and appeal, then you know, hopefully that would have a benefit if they were working on something relevant to their subject. The idea of Racing Academy is very simple. There are lots and lots of racing car games, and a lot of racing car games do this. They allow you to design your own racing car. And that's what we developed. And the idea is that you have to race your racing car, and in order to make it go faster, you have to learn about what it is, about the design will make it go faster. Okay, so in doing so, you're learning about engineering. But, this is basically the different levels that you have. And you can change the colour and the controls, but you can change the engine, the tyres, and the gears. And here to give you an example, and it's the first 3 levels is a racing car down a drag strip. Okay, and you're racing against the computer, so it has an AI car. And the AI car runs at about 80% efficiency. So if you can design a car better than that, then you will beat it. And what you can do, one thing you can do, is you can change the engine. You get a lot of information about the engine. This is the torque graph. And from that, you can work out which engine is to be the best. Now, all those, that's quite straightforward because you've got a list of 7 options. The next level is a bit more complicated. That's when you change the gear ratios. And like on that one, you could probably do it quite easily just through trial and error. The gear ratios, you have to know about gear ratios to understand about when to put the changes in gears. And beyond that, we also have a racetrack. But you can change anything on that. It's like there's about 1,000 different variations. Now, what we also did was we got them set up into racing car teams. So they were in groups of, as it says there, 3 or 5. So they have their own little racing car teams. And so they had to develop their race car. And then what they had at the end, they had like 2 weeks, and it was all part of their course. It was a genuine part of their course. They had to write a lab report, which got assessed, and that counted towards the marks at the end of this unit. And at the end of 2 weeks, they had a Grand Prix, where they all came with their designs, and they had to race the cars, and then there'd be a race-off with, I think it was the top 5 cars, and then they got a prize. This has been used in Bath now for, this is the 4th year it's been used. They still use it, and it's been used at the University of Portsmouth and the University of West of England, so it's sort of slowly spreading out. And I think it's used somewhere else up in Scotland. And then we asked them an open-ended question, just about how successful they thought it was and why. And 103 students wrote something positive, and it ranges on these things like it helped them understand. So we got a lot of comments like, it's not only helped me understand how gear ratio affects acceleration, top speed, but also the selection of friction factors could affect the performance. And the key thing is, which is what's so powerful about this game, is it allows them to alter the design in a way you just couldn't do normally. You can't, there's no way the expense, the time, the skill to actually design a car, change it, design it again, that iteration is just impossible in an undergraduate course. And so it does allow them to vary things and to test it under different conditions. And also it does seem to understand their basic physics. Like one person said, understand Newton's laws through playing this game. So it did seem to even get to a general issue. And a lot of people said it was a lot more interesting than other coursework. So, I mean, in conclusion, I would like to say the Racing Academy was a limited success. I wouldn't like to say it was a categorical success. I think there are issues to the way you implement it into the course, because we have done this. I did evaluate it in UE, Portsmouth and Bath, and we found that it was received very differently in those different universities. In 2 of them it was received very positive, but in a 3rd it wasn't received very positive. And I think that's part of the way that it's actually implemented and how it's introduced into the unit. And also in the timing, you can put it in different times of the year, and I think it would have a dramatic effect. But in this particular instance, they did find it motivating, and they did seem to learn. I do like this game, and I do think that it has a lot of potential, and I would like to sort of extend it. We have been talking about having an eco version, where instead of trying to make the car go as fast as possible, you could make it go as far as possible on 1 litre of petrol. Because all you need is just flip it, and just have the engine's the same, the car performance is all the same. It's just changing, altering the factors. And also, I do think it would be really useful if we could have a mobile version. I mean, I've got a racing car game on this, which is probably, in terms of graphics, much better than our one. But and then you could have all sorts of things, like they could play it on the bus, because the drag race only takes like, I think, 10 seconds. So it doesn't take very long, and you could do multiple ones of that. Plus, it'd be really good if you could race against each other rather than just an AI thing. And also, you could do it. You could have one car, I could have another car, and we could do it like sitting down. I think that would be really good. And also, if we could have different universities racing against each other, like have a sort of national Grand Prix. So I do think it's got an awful lot of potential, and I do hope somehow we can get a bit more money so we can develop it a bit further. It doesn't even really have badges. You don't even get badges or there was a leader table. We did have the Grand Prix. But the thing is, the interesting thing about that leader table was it can be anti-motivating. it's great if you're near the top, but if you don't think you'll ever get that good, that can be quite demotivating. And maybe also it's gamification could help, because gamification doesn't have those. The only reward is to be the top of the leaderboard. It has badges where you achieve when you get to certain states, you achieve it. Like, getting to 11 seconds, you get a badge. So maybe gamification has lessons to learn about how you can reward behaviour and good sort of performance in a way that wasn't implemented very well in our game.